call this meeting to order at 6:37 PM here. First item on our agenda is meeting minutes for March 13th, 2024. Are we okay to start here? Well,
Yeah.
okay. Do you guys have any?
Unanimously on third paragraph, just a spelling.
Yeah,
That's like,
unanimous.
Should be
Oh, yeah.
unanimously.
That's a good catch. I didn't even catch that reading through it.
there you go.
That's it.
All right.
Anything else, Pete?
I don't have it. Anything.
Okay, I'd make a motion to accept the minutes of February 13th, 2024.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. All right, moving on to our first appointment. Do we want to switch the appointments here since we have Marilyn on here and she's probably looking forward to spending the rest of her evening not with us?
We certainly could do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Marilyn. We're
Hello.
you can enjoy the rest of your evening.
Oh, well, can you hear me first of all?
Yeah.
Okay, and of course now I've got a frog in my throat. How is everyone? Good to be with you.
Yeah, we're doing great. I look good, Marilyn.
Good. So you do have the report that I sent?
Yep. We do.
Okay. Well, thank you for the time this evening. And yes, this is the report that we bring you each year from County Technical Services, CTSI, your county's insurance pool. And for the record, yes, Marilyn Wagner from the Loss Control at CTSI. And this report, we bring you each year to give you not only your loss trends as the county, but to see what our other membership loss trends are as a whole, as the pool, since we are an insurer of only counties of Colorado, county governments of Colorado, and about 50 other counties belong to this insurance pool. So each year we bring you this 5-year loss analysis, but we also have a year-end and a mid-year loss analysis that we send as well, and some years a sheriff. So we break it out in many different ways. So I will talk a little about the CAP pool overall and the workers' comp pool. I'm pulling some numbers from the membership packet from the winter conference. And please interrupt at any moment if you've got any questions. But the CAP pool we'll start with. This pool ended in 2023 with 14.5 million in equity. Again, not numbers you have in front of you, but I'm just giving you the highlights. CTSI distributed 500,000 back to all members because that's the way this pool works. The insurance pools distribute monies back to our membership, monies that don't have to be kept back for insurance regulations, for percentages that have to be remained in equity. But we were able to give back as a total 500,000, and I'll break that down for you. We also distribute back the interest that's earned on that income on those monies during the year. $1 million went back to the membership for this year. So what did that mean for San Juan County? For your CAP coverage, you started at a base of a little over 276,000. Again, CAP coverage covers the county's liability, covers your buildings, covers your vehicles, covers your operations for elected officials. All of that comes into play. You have a loss factor that's applied. Your loss factor currently is a 0.815. If we think of 1.0 as break even, you're getting a credit, you're better. So your claims history has been managed well, and claims that have occurred haven't developed into a lot of dollars. And then we also distribute back an equity return of $4,800, a little over $4,800 that comes off of that base. Your portion of interest was a little over $6,500. Doing all those calculations, your contribution this year was $217,000 and a couple of dollars over that. So when you look at this chart that's on that first page, you're looking, what we base that loss factor on is the oldest 3 of those 5 years. Of course, 2019 we show as one of our higher loss years in terms of dollars, And just so you realize, of course, at the end of this year, when your contribution for next year is calculated, that drops off. So it would stand to reason that your loss factor could go down because that higher year is going to go away. So that will help even reduce your base contribution even further. Okay. If no questions, I'll just move on to that first page that has the colored graphs. So it says casualty property by division. Division, just another way to say department. Which departments experience claims? Well, it's our larger departments. And then we can also see at the top the frequency of claims over 5 years, what those claims turned into for dollars, and then just an average per claim. You are our smallest county, and so some of your frequency and severity is remaining fairly low, but it's still appropriate for your size. If we go on to the next page, by accident, it starts telling us a little more. What did we experience over 5 years in terms of types of claims? Now we see frequency again at the top, the numbers of claims that occurred. Severity is the bottom half of that graph. Severity is just another way to say dollars. And of course, we can see that we had a couple of vehicle-related claims. We had a discharge leak. It was a pipe situation, right? That occurred. That was 2019 also. That's going to drop away. And then, of course, we see what on the severity, the one claim, again, that's from 2019 that was higher in dollars. That will be dropping off of your history for this next coming year as well. If we page on down to the next, that is simply the information that's represented in those graphs. So all of the claims that you had over the 5 years, the departments that they came from, the dollars that were spent. One thing I always like to remind our counties of is you see some claims, or at least one claim on this list resulted in $0. That's often the case of a claim that there was no liability to the county, or there was perhaps governmental immunity that came into play. And I point this out, and again, you well know, but please, if you have any situations that you think need to be handled by our claims, turn them in, because turning them in does not affect your loss factors and doesn't count against you in any way, but it does allow our claims department to start working on it and defending the county. And if there is no cause for a claim, then it will just be $0 on this list. So 6 total claims, very, very low in frequency, relatively low in severity. Again, the one that is the highest from your history will be dropping away. No necessarily real trends that I see, other than we did have a couple of claims related to vehicles. And as we'll see here in another couple of pages, you're following typically along with the rest of the membership in the most frequent type of claim that we have. I'll keep going. The next graph that you see here, this is a new graph we added this year. This is, you see it says pool by accident. This is all of our membership of the CAP pool, 5 years. So all departments of the county, what were our leading causes of all of our membership in frequency and then in severity as well. You see the total number of claims. You see the dollars that were spent over 5 years. And now if I look at the frequency graph, I see the first 3 are all related to vehicles. Vehicle struck an object, vehicle backing, vehicle struck an animal, Fourth one down, vehicle rear ending, or fifth one, I suppose. So you can see that vehicle is definitely our higher frequency situation of claims trends. In severity, these don't necessarily show up in frequency because very often, unfortunately, it may be the type of claim that is low in frequency, but very high in dollars. Fatalities, arrest-related, suicide attempts, unfortunate type of accidents and trends that do occur. These could be coming from sheriff's operations or otherwise as well. This could be all types of departments. But I think it helps us see, even if it's not happening in our operations, is it happening in the rest of the pool membership, since we are only county governments? There's no other entities mixed into this comparison. If you want to go to the last page on the CAP information, it's the long list. That again is the list of information that you basically saw in that graph. And again, and it's sorted by severity. It's sorted by the dollars. So you see where fatalities was in the graph, you see it at the top of this list. If I go down this long list, and we have various categories for, say, vehicles. We have about 15 types of claims that start with VEH, so a vehicle backing or a vehicle striking an object. If I go through this entire list, I count up the frequency, and it comes up to 51% of our claims in our counties over 5 years is related back to a type of vehicle claim. And so that is about what we've been running for the last couple of years, but it makes sense because we have vehicles in many of our departments. It's necessary to have vehicles for our sheriffs, for our road and bridge, in other departments as well. And we just point this out in terms of making sure you have good controls on hiring drivers, looking into motor vehicle records, valid driver's license, and then putting them through a defensive driving program is always suggested. We have that program online. We also can offer it in person. But just making sure the controls on fleet safety are there to help you try to mitigate some of these trends. And not only does it help you, but helps the pool as well in terms of the less losses that we have in trending, the better our reinsurance dollars can be as well. Any questions so far?
Nope.
Great. The same as I move on to the workers' comp, I'm just a couple of numbers from our winter conference membership information. This pool in workers' comp ended very strong at the end of 2023. 27.7 million in equity in this pool. Again, monies that have to be maintained for insurance regulations. But we were able to distribute 3 million back to the membership. So San Juan, based on your size of a county, based on your number of employees and others who are covered for workers' comp, you started off on a base of a little over 35,000 for this contribution. Now, in this case, you are running currently a loss factor of a 1.03, slightly above that break even. And we can see on the graph that we've had some ups and downs in our work comp history. You did receive back a little more than $8,900 out of that distribution. That brought your base contribution down for a net for this year of a little over 27,000. I like to remind our counties that the workers' comp pool not only covers the employees of the counties, but it covers your statutory volunteers, it covers your appointed board members. So the numbers I had from last fall, and we collect these from you each year, you had 43 employees, 56 statutory volunteers, and 15 appointed board members. So again, work comp extends just beyond the employees themselves. By the way, there were only 2 claims last year in workers' comp, so that's very good, and we can see that on this graph. Again, that loss factor is based on your oldest 3 of these 5 years. 2019 will drop away next year, and 2022 will come on, but we are trending downward currently. So, this is a good trend for the future of a couple of years down the road. The first colored graph, it says by division. It's just each department. And it makes sense as we see this. We know that our higher potential exposures for injury is going to come out of our departments like public safety and law enforcement, even road and bridge. Administration is kind of a catch-all for many departments. Keep going down. The page by accident tells us more of the story. You can see the number of claims at the top, how many dollars we spent in 5 years on claims. We see that we had, in terms of types of injury, we had 5 slips and falls. We had a couple of body mechanics, just meaning a musculoskeletal injury. And when we look at the severity, the most dollars were spent on those slips and falls as well. And paging to the next, again, is the breakdown of what you see in the graphs, but it spells it out by each department, what claim happened, how many dollars. So when I do this, I try to look for trends and try to think of suggestions or methods that we can use to approach our loss trending. And really what it comes down to is the solutions are going to be by the department. What works for administration is not going to be the same as over in Road and Bridge, perhaps. But it seems that as I look through this, lifting, slips and falls, body mechanics, some sort of a musculoskeletal injury is what has been prevalent. So we think about teaching good techniques for lifting, for using mechanical assistance if we have something heavy, using a cart, using a chain, even to move an object in the shop from one point to another, trying to minimize physically handling material where it can be done. I saw a hand cut on here. If we are handling material, especially anything rough, we see a trend of a lot of hand cuts with our county workers. And if we can wear cut-resistant gloves while we're handling materials, that helps. Because a cut seems like a minor thing until it gets infected, until we have to go have surgery. There's just many things that can happen. And then, of course, slips, trips, and falls is always back to good footwear, wearing ice cleats if appropriate when we're working outdoors, good use of ladders, good use of handholds when we are on and off equipment. So again, the answers are varied by each department. We can help you with these to just talk about solutions or talk about products or tell you what maybe we have seen work in other counties if different departments would like to ask questions on that. The same on the next page, we did this graph by all membership. You can now see what did my fellow member counties experience in terms of claims over 5 years. And we see the number one in not only frequency, but as well as dollars is slips and falls. You can see that in 9 years, over $9 million was spent on slips, trips, and falls injuries. So any ways that we can think of to prevent this not only prevents a person from getting injured, but prevents a lot of costs, since work comp injuries have so many hidden costs. If I'm hurt and you're my partner in the shop, now you have to cover for me. You are now working harder. you may be subject to more fatigue and then injury as well. So again, the trends, what is happening, what can we do for solutions? On the last page, it again breaks that information out, categorized by severity. And I just like to point out, if you look at the first, the second, and the fourth listings on here, slips, trips, falls, body mechanics, again, that overarching kind of catch-all category for injuries, and then lifting. Those three together total 37% of our frequency over 5 years in the workers' comp, but it also totals over $14 million spent just in those three areas, or 47% of the severity. Again, it's about those three areas is how about half of county employees are injured. And looking for those solutions, how we might be able to correct a job that maybe needs mechanical assistance or needs another method or needs some sort of personal protective equipment, goes a long way to preventing these types of injuries. So these reports are for you just to see where the trends lie and to help foster any safety training that you might be interested in. And of course, we are here to help you with that service and try to help you with new ideas and any training that we might be able to offer. Any questions on this report overall?
Needle sticks for EMS, like paramedics and EMTs. Is that what a needle stick is?
Yes, paramedics, EMTs, and then don't forget we have public health also, and they give shots sometimes, and yeah, needle sticks can happen there. Yeah, no.
What's cumulative trauma? Is that trauma that's resulted? You have one trauma and then things get worse, or what is cumulative trauma?
That is usually referring to situations like ergonomics, like it often comes into play, like even, believe it or not, just using a keyboard, but it could also be using a tool that, like maybe a vibrating tool. And it's basically, you know, when it starts involving the wrist and having to have surgery.
Like carpal tunnel.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, can be situations like that. And you're right, it can extend beyond that as well to other things that have built upon one another. But that's usually the areas that we have as categorize those when they come in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hearing loss could be one of those,
What's that?
like hearing loss, being around a lot of equipment.
Yep.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
That, I mean, a very good observation. Yes, like sheriffs, maybe having to always practice with shooting at the shooting range. Of course, we want hearing protection, but over time, certain jobs do have an exposure that does lead to a long-term like hearing loss, or maybe even respiration. You know, if you're breathing in fumes, breathing in dust. Yep, good.
Yeah.
So again, use this information, share it with department heads if appropriate, and safety committees. You can share this with the different departments to maybe see how they can look at the trends that might apply to them, and again, reach out for any help that we might be able to offer.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Well, thank you. If I could, I'll just one more bit of information. I just wanted to let you know I'm actually retiring next week. And yes,
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We do have a new hire. Unfortunately, he couldn't join me on this meeting, but he will be covering your territory, Steve Pacharich. And there'll be an announcement coming out from CTSI, the newsletter, but he's great, has a lot of background in many different things, DOT, OSHA, flagger training, ergonomics, safety training of all types. So we're really excited to have him on, and he'll be out before long to meet you in person.
That'd be great. Well, enjoy your retirement.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I am going to help out part-time, so maybe I'm not going away completely. So you may end up still having to deal with me at some point, but at least for a little while, just to get the new guy up and running.
There you go.
Well, that's okay, but I hope you get to enjoy your retirement.
I definitely will. I appreciate it.
All
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Marilyn.
Take care.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
But. Gotta say, overall, I think we're headed in a positive direction as far as those claims and things. That we
Oh,
talked
yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For our
Not bad.
size of county and the, you know, extreme nature of our roads and weather, climate and all the things that we have, I'm pretty impressed at how
Pretty good.
Yeah.
how well we're doing.
The problem is we're so small, if you have two workers claims, then it's like,
Right.
increased our.
Sure.
Increased it by 200 per day, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we've always been pretty good, but yeah, we've had a couple in there that have been
Yeah,
pretty serious, so.
Yeah.
yeah, the fatality from 2019
Yeah.
is a big,
Yep.
is a big black mark that we should look forward to coming away.
Yeah.
On our insurance. All right, any other comments regarding the CTSI, 5-year loss analysis?
Well,
We don't need to do anything as far as like accept this report or anything.
it's just information.
Yeah, just information. All right, moving on, we will go back to the Anvil Mountain Apartments lease purchase agreement amendment.
Okay, so just a little history on this is when we entered into the lease purchase agreement for the Anvil Mountain Apartments, one of the clauses in the agreement was it said that every 5 years, the bank could review what the current interest rate is and adjust accordingly.
Is that pretty normal, just to interrupt you? Is that that doesn't seem that normal, but,
It's not abnormal.
okay.
It's more normal in commercial
Yeah,
or, you know, larger government or
Right.
any kind of things. We actually like purchasing our building, that's all anybody wanted to give us was 5-year balloon
Really?
adjustable
Huh.
rate. So it's pretty tough to
Yeah,
vie for anything different.
yeah, I mean, fixed rate is the ultimate, but it's so hard to do a fixed rate. I mean, if we could have fixed a rate on this would have been awesome.
and, you know, in addition, you know, this isn't a traditional mortgage, it's a lease purchase agreement.
Hmm.
Which as a government, we have to do, or we have to have, you know, if we're gonna go into debt. You know, with regular financing, then the voters actually have to approve that, so that's why we buy equipment and everything else with lease purchase. Which actually allows, I mean, it puts the bank at risk, because next year when we do the budget, you guys decide. You know, we're just not gonna pay that anymore. And all of a sudden, Citizen State Bank owns and they're managing an apartment complex.
Yeah,
Not that that would happen.
not that would happen, but it does.
But yeah, but it is, and I mean, it's the same thing with the, you know, the bulldozers and everything else, when it's a lease purchase. You know, it's a 5-year term, but it's a 1-year term, you know, you can't commit the board, or any future board more than 1 year.
Yeah.
So, actually, Citizen State Bank was somewhat kind to us.
It's below prime still, and it's not as much as they could have increased it.
Could have increased it by, I can't say the numbers here, but,
Actually, the interest rate is capped at 2%. Is that part of the agreement?
no, that's what.
That's the next
They're
5
gonna,
years.
they're gonna increase it by 2% for the next 5 years. They could have increased it by 4.5%.
They could have made it match prime then.
Yeah.
Wow, so they were very kind to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have made it match prime. They probably could have charged us more than prime even. on that, because usually for these higher risk loans, they usually charge you more than prime. So,
Now, it does, from a dollar standpoint, we basically, broke even, this year.
On the,
On
on the
on
rentals.
the apartments between the rentals and the, our, from our revenues on the rental and what our expenditures were. So this is gonna cost us another, what I figure, $1,200 a month, 14,000 a year, basically. But at the same time, the state, tells us, how much we can increase everybody's rent.
Hmm,
And,
yeah.
and we will be seeing that in maybe April, probably May.
So that'll recoup some of that.
So we'll, yeah.
Will it recoup all of it, you
I
know?
don't know. I don't know.
Okay,
We'll-
I mean, I remember, years ago, we were just worried about making sure the thing was full.
Yeah,
You know, we're.
We've come a long way.
We're basing the break even on just, it had to be full, but we didn't know if it was gonna be full.
and because we've sold, we haven't sold those lots down there for a huge sum of money, but,
Right,
we've got money in the bank, so any shortfall isn't,
right.
impacting.
We can
the general
use,
fund.
we could use that money that's, from those sales of lots, if we needed that 14,000, we could offset, okay.
I know we keep seeing these kinds of things, oh, interest rates are gonna drop next quarter, and then they just go up. But if we do see drastic drops in interest rates, is there any availability to refinance?
I think we probably, if things went back, I think if we gave Citizen State Bank a call and said, can we adjust this, I think they'd probably be, amenable to doing that,
Yeah.
maybe, depending on who's running things.
Yeah,
No, I think they are, like, I think they would be a
okay,
good partner, so.
yeah,
And I mean, Jessica, it's a person I've been working with, and she was feeling real bad, but it's like, we gotta do this, but we'll give you a break. It's like, okay,
Wow,
we'll take whatever we can get from
Very,
you.
very generous on those guys.
Yeah.
yeah.
She's a pretty easy person to work with too.
Yeah, she really is. So.
Did you talk to her about, the present situation at this branch?
No,
No,
that's.
you wanted to get
We
this
wanted to
done
make sure we
first?
get this done.
That's why at the last meeting, I suggested getting somebody in here, Dennis said,
Let's wait
let's wait.
until this is done.
We wanna get,
I got you.
we're gonna get this
That's why we waited.
Makes sense.
before we run.
Yeah, you don't wanna make a mess.
Yeah,
No, it's very generous on their part, so. Cause it could be 28 to 30,000 instead of 14,000.
Yep.
Are they, is the Fed just keeping interest rates high, just trying to keep the economy at its even keel? Is that why they haven't?
That's what they say.
Budge,
this is their
Inflation.
best, their best hedge against inflation is to keep interest rates
just
high.
keep interest
I
rates.
mean, I think they
But,
keep,
home sales just in the last month, nationwide have just jumped, totally bucking the trend. Home sales, the drop related to mortgage rates, which were high, but all of a sudden, home sales have jumped regardless of mortgage rates. People just want a house, and that's, that was just a weird thing. It's like, there's no relation.
yeah, I know, I mean, I think that, they keep inching towards like they're gonna start lowering it, and then something will come up where inflation is bumping up a little bit or something else, or the economy is a little stronger than they anticipated and they back up. I mean, even on this one, Dan, I said, well, let's hold off a couple days and see what the feds are gonna do. It sounds like they might reduce them, the next day they came out and said,
No,
nothing. So,
Yeah,
well, I don't remember where I read this, or maybe somebody told me. One of the big, inflationary causes right now is insurance.
okay.
I can believe
It's
it.
not surprising.
And, I mean, and that is pretty much connected to climate change. Wildfires, hailstorms,
Hurricanes,
flooding.
Yeah.
Severity and the numbers keep increasing, the insurance rates keep going up, and so that's one of the areas that are really hammering things.
insurance went up and property tax went up. And water and sewer went up.
I mean, everything, inflation affects us all.
It does.
Certainly does.
Yeah, they're just even reading things on that bridge collapse, how that could affect the economy. I mean, they can shunt a lot of that shipping, but not all of it. You know, it's just that it could affect the economy. Things like, you wouldn't think about it, but like, Ukraine is really attacking, Russian refineries. So if they can't, well, part of it's just so they can't finance the war, but if they can't export, then, you know, all those countries depending on Russia, we're gonna have to buy it somewhere else, which makes it more competitive, which makes the cost of fuel go up, so.
Well, and Ukraine too is like the 5th largest GDP. I think any. Hey, I can't remember exactly what the statistics are. They're a huge grain supplier. That's probably not happening with the war in Ukraine.
Well, it's, I think it's better because they nailed the Black Sea Fleet of the Russians. They were trying to, you know, well, they've been hitting their ports too, but
Yeah,
I think that, and then even trying to take it through Poland, you know, they're having Polish farmers stop Ukrainian grain at Polish borders because they didn't want the competition. I mean, just to make it, even though they're a huge grain exporter, they've been hit hard trying to get grain in.
yeah. Not to mention trying to grow it while you're getting bombed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's sad to see like whole fields of grain, you know, they'll hit a tank and then that whole field just burns, you know, just wiped out that farmer's whole plot there.
Yeah,
It's grim.
yeah.
Do we have to make a motion on this amendment?
We do, make a motion to approve and Dennis actually wrote the amendment, so.
So we just need to make a motion to approve the amendment as written.
Yeah.
I make amendment, we approve, no, I make a, I'm not gonna amend the amendment, make a motion, we approve the amendment as written.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
I,
And Austin, because this is so bizarre. You have to sign it, LaDonna has to
Notarize it.
acknowledge your signature, and then Lindsley needs to notarize both your signatures.
Oh,
So if
You
you
have
can
to all
come
three
in
have to be.
tomorrow or whenever you get a chance to come in, and
should we get Kim on there too?
what's that?
Should we get Kim on there too to notarize the notary signature too?
It is the most bizarre thing. Cause you know, usually with everything, as long as, you know, the chairman signs and LaDonna acknowledges as the clerk, but
Yeah,
every once in a while we'll get a document like this where we have to have those signatures notarized. Like, it's pretty.
Is it tonight, the emergency meeting of town council as far as annexation, isn't that tonight?
Yeah, for the second half.
For the,
They've already annexed the first half.
okay,
The lots tonight will be the apartments.
gotcha, okay. But what's cool about the emergency annexation is it will put 50 voters into the pool.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
instantly,
Yeah,
yeah,
oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah,
think about,
for
our
town.
population is 600, 700, I
Yeah.
guess, but that's almost 8 or 9% of our population that isn't voting, so.
yep.
It's a chunk
A lot of folks in there now.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
Not only annexation, but that, you know, well, the whole annexation, I think, is really good for us. And then just to have all those voters, so it's great.
I think it's just great because Will and I used to look at each other years ago, they're back when I was on board, and how many naysayers for that whole project, you remember stuff, 'cause you guys were, you felt that more than
Yeah,
as much as anybody, and now they're fighting for houses,
yep. Yeah. No,
completely different game.
when I first was campaigning for the very first time I was in office, I went went to some of the naysayers, I really caught an earful.
Yeah.
Yeah. No more.
I get excited every time coming off the hill, it's like, yes, look at that.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah.
You know? It took a while, it definitely took a while, but it's happening
You know, I mean, we put the sewer and water in there and it's sat for
quite a while.
6, 7 years.
Yep.
No, it,
We had to fill the pipes just so that,
Mm.
you know,
yep, no,
But you knew that once something started, then the ball was gonna start rolling. Once you saw ground being broken in a couple of houses, you're just gonna see it start to happen.
Right.
It's really happening, so both town and county.
now we wish the town or we had another piece of property just like it, you know?
Yep.
For workforce housing.
just on the national news tonight. And I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but apparently, Steamboat Springs had a ballot issue. Concerning building, workforce housing and apartments. And they're like everybody else and, especially in the mountain resorts.
Yeah.
Just desperate for housing and, unless you're wealthy, you're not living there and, it looked like it was being defeated.
No way.
Being defeated?
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, some of the people were coming on and testifying, at the public hearing was, oh, you're gonna put all poor people in one area, we're gonna have a slum over there. It's like, they're not the poor people. It's
Oh,
it's the
yeah.
working
Yeah,
people,
they're
the
just-
middle-class people.
They're the ones serving you,
Essentially middle class.
you know, they're the ones serving you in food and beverage business,
Yeah.
Yeah,
the ski area and everything
It's what you need
else,
for your income, but,
yeah.
or for, for your.
all the
economy.
way, yeah.
And then in Sedona. I just read an article, no housing, same story. So, a lot of people that are working there are living in their cars. And so they pull in.
I heard about this
They
one.
pull into a parking lot.
Parking lot, they tried to make one, yeah, I heard about this.
Tell them to leave, so a lot of them are living out on the, on federal land, or not living, but parking out there and, so the town, they had this piece of property, and it's got a big parking lot on it. They were gonna set it up for 40, basically for 40 vehicles, they're gonna mark off, everybody has their space, you're gonna put bathrooms on it. A cooking area, a washing station, and, you had to before you could get on there, you had to demonstrate that you were working,
Sure.
you had
Makes
to.
sense.
And some of the people just went off the wall, oh my God, we're gonna have this, again, we're gonna have this, we're gonna have the
We're
poor
gonna have
people
a
in the world
homeless.
coming, homeless, everybody in the world's gonna come to Sedona because this is the most wonderful place in the world to live here. And well, they've gotta show that they're working, well, they're only gonna work 1 hour a week just so they can show they're working, so they can,
No.
it's like, it's like,
Yeah.
and who's gonna wait on you when you wanna go
Right.
to the restaurant or go to the
Mow
grocery
your
store?
yard.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, I read an article in Steamboat that, some of the investors from Yellowstone Club are planning on doing a similar development very close to Steamboat.
Mhm.
Oh, part of the parking lot idea?
No, the Yellowstone Club, like
Oh.
building, selling lots for multi-million dollars with
Yeah.
private ski area,
Just the opposite, yeah.
just the opposite.
This gets worse.
Well, it's like you said. Who's gonna serve you?
Yeah,
Yeah, where are they gonna live?
yeah, and where are those folks gonna live?
I mean, Aspen, it went from Aspen to Carbondale and then to Glenwood, and now they're clear out on I-70 as far as you can go, because it's just got worse and worse and worse, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Boy,
I mean, look at Telluride, I mean, everybody, a lot of, I wonder what the percentage of workforce is, but it's gotta be high that's coming from Montrose, I mean, that's just a zoo. I
Yeah.
mean, about 8 or 9 in the morning and then 5 or 6 at night.
my buddy lives in, won't say names. But lives in Norwood and he says it's just a change, it used to be a little town and it's,
Norwood's changed a lot, is that
Huge,
right?
huge.
Just because of housing.
well, the Telluride,
Yeah.
Workforce
yeah,
better.
Telluride, yeah.
Is ended up in
Yeah.
Norwood then.
Yeah.
Yeah, a friend of mine started a bakery there a decade ago now. It's changed a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember, going through a lot of the statistics of vacant houses and, residents and commuting and things like that. We don't really have a community thing, but we've managed to kind of stay out of the level of what most resort communities experience as far as vacancy and housing problems and things like that. Our housing problems are much more akin to the kind of bedroom neighboring communities, places like Carbondale and Ridgeway.
Oh, wow.
Which is still a problem, but it's
Isn't about like 50 or 60% of our housing second homes?
here.
Yeah,
No, I don't think it's quite that bad.
that seems to be what sticks in my head for some reason, I don't know why. It'd be a good one for King, but I remember it was high. And it's,
It was more like 20% on the official
really?
statistics, yeah.
Oh,
Because I think for the vacation rental, short-term
Yeah,
rental thing,
you're
it was about, I think it was about 10% of the housing stock was vacation rentals. And this is like 5 years ago now, at that point now, probably, but.
Yeah.
This
Well,
happened, so who
but
knows
there-
what it is now.
But so many of the homes were second homes. There's so many homes that are second homes here though that.
Yeah.
They're not working here. They just come up here for their 2 weeks of vacation and rent it out.
Yeah,
Or whatever, but I thought it was pretty high.
I think the town, I think Lucy was telling me that the town was gonna, actually,
they're gonna do a full housing.
Do a whole housing survey.
Yeah,
They're gonna,
Need to,
See
Yeah.
who's living in that house, who isn't living in that
Yeah,
house.
right,
I mean, I think we'd be surprised how many of these are not being
Yeah.
used.
yeah. And honestly though, I think it's probably better in some ways than it used
Than it
to.
was, say, like 10 years ago or something, or?
Yeah,
Huh.
but I still feel like in 2020, we had a lot of turnover in houses with folks who were second homeowners.
Right,
To 2020 and 2021, so. Yeah,
I'd be curious, because the data's gonna be much different than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
I bet it'd shock us actually, yeah.
but yeah, I mean, certain places are real bad, like Creed, I think is like 80% second homes.
Right.
I can believe it.
Yeah.
And I can guess which state they're from too.
Just the one?
Lake City's another one like that too. Their number one economy is second home building.
Yeah.
Like that, I remember a long time ago, asking a commissioner, do you have any backcountry regulations? And he goes, why? Because turns out
Why?
he's a concrete guy.
No.
Yeah, and he didn't see any need for it because.
He's happy?
Many people are making their living.
Yeah.
Building in the backcountry, so.
Yeah.
It's not just backcountry, I mean, you just have to go to Lake City and see all those second homes just around.
Just around the lake and.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
they do have a lot more flat, non-avalanche terrain than we do.
Yep. Where we at, Willie?
oh,
We're down to commissioner and staff reports here, so. We can take our unofficial banter,
There you go.
make it official now.
We had meetings last Wednesday, when did we have that meeting with Peter Butler?
Wednesday.
Yep.
Okay, so we had that, and you guys were there, so, but then our next meeting was, at 6 was a natural resource meeting with, quite a few folks there, but I didn't really learn that much more new about the natural resource thing, did you? It was kind of what we've been told, when we met down there. I mean, a lot of it was just kind of the same stuff.
Yeah.
But they gave us dates and stuff
Yeah,
like
I
that.
think it was more the
Um,
public notice of it.
Yeah.
So the same stuff we learned at James Ranch is what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Quite a bit. See if there was anything else.
Did they discuss percentages of what they wanted to spend in the upcoming year and deadlines for funding at all?
Yes, the registration deadline was 7/15, proposal deadline is September 30th. And you just have to get a proposal, and the problem is bringing in a match too, it is a 50% match, so. which can be in kind, but, it could be cash, you could use, like a federal and state grant. And they said they might even be willing to waive part of that 50%, where it wouldn't have to be exactly 50%, they were. And the matching, this is the hard part, the matching funds don't have to be in hand, but I think you better have it lined up.
Are they hoping to spend a portion of this by this deadline or
Yes.
100% of this?
No, it's like half, right? Half this phase, there's 2 phases.
Yeah.
Half this phase and half in another phase in a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. So.
I wish we'd have been able to hold them a little lower to like 30% and then 70.
Yeah, cause it's such late notice.
Yeah,
And they're really holding to that, as far as his deadlines. Doesn't give you much time for a deadline.
these are not unique problems to San Juan County, but the state is taking federal dollars and making very tight deadlines. With very stringent requirements and not a lot of notice.
Now you have time to deal with something,
You
especially if you
don't even have time to plan it.
especially have a big project or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know that Gunnison County's experiencing a lot of problems with some of their ARPA money that they're using to fund a new housing development there. And they're basically, like they're asking them to spend all the money by, June or July by the federal deadline of this year, and they're like, the ground's frozen, we can't even dig.
Can't even start-
Can't
we
Can't even break
We can't
ground.
even break ground. Gunnison
Yeah,
until- It's
exactly.
just, it's like, give us the money, or is it a payable thing where they gotta, spend 100,000 on excavation, then, submit that? Is that how they get it, or do they get it all in one lump sum?
I don't know, he just is, Jonathan Haub was asking, is anybody else experiencing these kinds of things? And I said, oh yeah, we're experiencing this with the state from State Attorney General's office for this funding for the settlement for the.
Sure. Yeah.
Doing it's same kind of problems that we're experiencing.
Yeah, not as realistic as it should be, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
And a big part of this too is people want things that make them look good for their upcoming elections.
Yeah, no, that's.
Yeah, I didn't.
Good point right
I didn't think
there.
about that.
Bill Weiser.
No,
won the
it's-
election, I believe, this year.
It is a little bit
You
political,
know what, I
right?
should have thought of that.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
That was good. There was kind of some murmuring at James Ranch about that, like people were kind of saying things like that under their breath, but it wasn't being openly.
I didn't
discussed.
catch it.
But yeah,
It's kind of like, Putin wanting, Avdiivka taking at all costs, so he can show the people of Russia that we're moving forward in this war, for his election.
yeah. Yeah. Well, at least it's a real elections, I guess.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
And anything else on that
No,
meeting?
not on that meeting, then we had our normal planning group meeting, and, I like those, because it's just, nice to catch up with a lot of folks, and, MSI says they're gonna be working on, wetland restorations on Burrows Creek, Silverton Lakes. BLM is gonna do a study on the Lark, they said they're gonna do a borehole into the Lark tunnel to see how much water is there.
Where at?
The Lark up in Prospect.
Prospect.
Yeah.
What? Why did we go from,
It's already been, that whole area has been reclaimed and fixed, so
I thought they were just gonna be capping some things and moving some drainage around.
they're worried about like long-term maintenance, so they want to see if there's water in there. I think they're gonna probably dig it out.
I can feel Dennis with me right next to me right now. I'll just calm down. I'll just keep my mouth shut.
All I said to him was, be careful about that borehole.
Watch what you wish for.
And try and get it in the right spot the first, time or two or three.
The other thing that kind of bugged me was they're gonna be working on the San Juan Chief, which is where Engineer Pass starts up. Down below that is that old mill, the San Juan Chief kind of mineral points here, San Juan Chief's here, Engineer Pass is here. they found high lead concentrations, so they wanna clean all that up.
Human health hazard?
Yep,
And there you go.
high arsenic, this one. Now the one thing I like that they're gonna do, there's quite a bit of braiding from vehicles in that area and just wanna fix some of that. I can go along with that, but some of this, you know, cause they still wanna do a little cleanup with Adams Forks, they wanna do it there, they wanna do something at the, isn't it the Frisco, they were gonna do something?
Just go Bagley.
I think,
The state might be doing that though.
they sent me an email, the other day asking to get on the next commission.
Okay.
Come in and, talk about all the projects or.
And not to interrupt, Scott,
Yeah.
I would love a field trip to Endless Forest where they were talking about that. That's,
Oh,
I mean, I think we need to,
They talked about doing archaeology at Animal Sports, it's like, don't be tearing the crap out of this.
just like you said
Just leave
earlier.
it alone, yeah. They're
Never
gonna,
heard back about
gonna
that.
be doing work, Gibbs Ditch, Red Cloud, Mammoth, Burrows, the Vermilion Tunnel, more dispersed campsites, they're worried about lead and arsenic.
Where at? Which campsite?
It's just BLM dispersed campsites where people are kind of camping in areas of BLM land, they want to test them now. I don't know if it's the dispersed campsites they set aside as dispersed campsites or just other ones, but they're gonna be testing them for lead and arsenic. It's like, when is this gonna end? And it's just, and I said, some smarty pants thing, I said, it's, you know, if a family's there one time a year for the next 20 years, you know, how much lead and arsenic are they gonna eat out of the soil? They're not eating the soil.
You're not putting in your cereal bowl.
Yeah, I just,
I think some of this is probably kind of following suit from some things that they've had happen in Gunnison County in that area, because they've just had areas that have just been like overrun with campers, like.
like mine dumps and stuff like that.
Well, like just in general for campers, and I'm sure it's just a policy procedure thing that they have to follow if they are going to designate dispersed campsites.
They have to check for
they have to check
heavy
for
metals and
health
stuff. Okay.
hazards as they designate these.
Huh.
So, and that was something that I remember talking about with John Kaminsky when he was brand new. Because yeah, like a prime example just outside of Crested Butte is the Obi Joyful campground. There's a Obi Joyful Creek right there, a big whitewater creek too, but I mean, it was like back in 2012, it was a zoo there.
Right.
And then I remember it being such a zoo that we drove further up the really gnarly 4-wheel drive road to camp in the higher meadow,
Just to get away.
just to kind of get away from it. And it was, and then I believe that whole road is shut down now and they don't allow anybody to go, and then they have designated campsites in the campground area where before it was just a free for all. So, but I remember them saying, you know, as our public lands start to become more packed in with people, and this was even before COVID, we were like right at the beginning of COVID, before we really understood what that was
We're just gonna
be
get
like.
more use of campsites that might not have seen,
Yeah.
like, you know, 40 years ago, some of those campsites, you might see somebody, might not see somebody, but
Yeah.
somebody's using it every single time. But again, it's, to me, some of it's just busy work.
Scott, I'm gonna go kind of echo what you always said. I liked it when they use that, that, I always call it the leadsometer, but it's not the XP, whatever it is.
Oh,
I'd love- Why can't we see some data from that? Why can't the commissioner see some data from that? From BLM?
And, you know,
Right.
to me,
I mean,
and the question is it being
Yeah.
done, like on a grid, or is it being done randomly where
right,
I need high lead things, there's a chunk of glean and you shoot the X-ray diffractometer at it. And you get
under the picture table.
I mean, I saw that with mining and sampling the dumps, you know, oh, this looks good, let's throw that in. Where
I just like to see the data to support it, that's all.
well, and that was discussed a little bit at the meeting as far as data, you know. They actually, I felt like they were listening a little bit more about, you know, if you're gonna do the North Star, take your samples there, take your samples afterwards, did it work? They want to see, they were talking about that, if they want to see if the project was worth doing, and I agree.
Yeah. And I think the EPA has been more open to that, in our meetings and stuff like that, that's what I'm saying. With the BLM, we're not as well informed.
I think it was EPA.
It's a nice way to
talking
put
A little bit more about the the sampling to prove whether something was worth it, but, BLM, they just wanna fix things on their land and regardless, and it's some of it, I don't know, some, those campgrounds,
Well, and then I think some of that goes back to what we were talking about a little earlier. There's federal funding out there and they're gonna get their piece of it and get it spent.
And get federal funding, if you can prove that there is a health hazard,
human health.
human health hazard, right?
Lead and arsenic,
Then there's money.
Well, and part of it too, like, we heard from them that their rec budget is like really small, like $60 million a year. Federally, like nationally, for their rec budget, but if you can get remedial funds to go test campsites and put in the campsites, then they may be trying to shift some of that funding.
I see what you're saying,
One
you get more
area to
funding
another.
for some of your projects by doing it that way, but.
Yeah,
But,
or more, just more money flowing through your office, it's more administrative money that you get, it's.
And the way recreation is booming on public lands, there should be a lot more money flowing into it.
Yeah, there should.
I wonder if
Especially to protect them.
I wonder if the XP machine can drive down County Road 2 and find some lead.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah,
I do have to, when we were doing Andrew Mountain, BLM was real good as far as lending us their XRF machine.
Mhm.
So when we were testing, we had that, and then of course, we had to verify those numbers with lab tests, so we would have to take samples and send them to the lab, but that's still a good indication, you know, having to pay for a bunch of sampling, so they were actually. And it was pretty good, I mean, it was, you know, fairly accurate, but, you know, even with the sampling. Down here is, you figure out what your grid pattern was, and then you would do a star sample. I think that's what they call it, basically, it was each corner and then one in the middle, and then mix them together, and then sample it, so it wasn't, yeah, here's a piece of lead here.
yeah, so then you have a more
You have a-
generalized average, okay. So that's BLM, all kinds of sites, DRMS is gonna be doing some of the IROD stuff on the Grand Mogul, Frisco Bagley. They're gonna put a culvert up at the Frisco Bagley, right? Weren't they talking about that, a 24-inch culvert?
Yeah.
They're still working the Sarco Trust with the CDPHE, still kind of working on the Amy Aspen. I think that one's pointless personally, but, they are.
I don't care for that one.
They are,
That
one's, the
Well,
water.
and again, it's kind of like the Lark. I just gotta say it. When we already had Frontier Environmental go do that years ago, and then you guys are back up there
Again.
this last year. And,
Now they're
you
gonna go
know,
back on another project.
exactly,
Yeah.
the same one that we're,
Absolutely. They are gonna do a bug study in Porphyry Gulch, to see. This is where, this was good to hear, they wanna see if there were any results from, doing that total reclamation of the Boy King, remember that big dump was there, they did that reclamation.
Yeah,
They wanna, it's been 6 years, they wanna just see if there's proof that that project worked, that's where some of that came from, was that, Boy King.
Yeah.
Let's see.
like when you say bugs, like aquatic bugs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see, they just talked, about the repository, they're bringing in 9,000 tons of asphalt to pave cell 2 on top of the thing. We really need to get on about this pavement, I mean, we personally should just document that road now. Even though, shoulda, woulda, coulda, but, the road on it's getting worse and worse.
It is.
It's-
pavement and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Should all be, we should video it or something,
yeah.
before they start.
And then you look at even the road, Howardsville, I haven't been out to Eureka, but the road to Howardsville, it's just gone in pot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's as good as no gravel left, it's just,
Right.
yeah. So they're gonna, drill some more monitor wells, finish the Lake Emma project, they're gonna try to do a borehole, at the Bandora, to monitor the water level.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, let's see, Forest Service is gonna come in and do some of the work on the Brooklands that they didn't do.
Are they gonna mess with those ponds?
I think so.
They are.
Yeah, I wish they'd just leave them there, they're all, there's I hate to say it, but the strawberries and blueberries growing on them and all kinds of stuff, just leave them alone.
There was a couple years ago where somebody had gone in there with like their OHV when it was like all pretty dry and some of those and like torn it up, so.
Oh, the ponds,
Yeah,
too bad.
like
Yeah.
in the, like in the mud there, which, I mean, just think, but that's an easy thing with some boulders to fix,
Yeah,
Landmines.
but.
Let's see, they talked about the Anglo-Saxon crib wall.
what'd they say about that?
They'd like to, they're just looking at ideas on how to,
Preserve the wall?
you know, either.
They said they were gonna bring us some stuff before to look at when they.
The one idea was to inject.
Oh, yeah?
Essentially, you're injecting the logs with glue, you know, make them hold better. One.
No preserving the wall.
Yeah, one would be, you know, just setting up. Girders, I guess, that'd be one idea, one is tear it all down and put something back that looks like it, we've seen what happened at the May Day with that, so. So we'll see.
You tear that down, you're not putting yeah,
And that's a really nice example, it's a huge crib wall, I mean, but it is rock, but. It's not like I'm too worried about it falling out in the middle of the road.
I'll tell you what happens, like I said, when they asked me, I won't say that, who they are, but you put an excavator even back behind there and start pulling,
Yeah,
you better have traffic control, that wall is gonna go in the county
Yeah.
road.
better be.
If you leave it alone, I'll be good for 25, 30 more years, but you put an excavator back there, even as well balanced as they are, you got problems,
Yeah, I can see that,
so.
especially if it's wet or saturated.
Which it usually.
It always is,
because of all
Yeah.
the water runs right
water.
past it, yeah, it's-
Sure, yeah.
so, anyway.
All right, that's all
Sorry,
I
I didn't
got,
mean
yeah, that's all I've got.
So good news, we're Road and Bridge demoing an L70 Volvo loader. It's not operational yet, but it will be, hopefully by tomorrow. They delivered it without a bucket, and now they got a bucket, but now it's stuck in parks, but they're gonna send a mechanic, and it's a nice machine. We'll see how they like it, and I'm trying to set up a demo for Deere and Komatsu as well. Getting the prices all the way, so we can give them all to you guys, and the bottom line is, my 2 cents is gonna be, let's see which is the best price, see how the guys like it, but also I'm gonna throw in my 20 years of experience with the parts and service department of each entity, because that's really where the buck stops, especially when you're an hour away from the dealer,
Right,
as to what kind of support you get. Okay, along with,
Well,
the
just
I think that plays into the price,
expense of the parts, you know, the replacement
Well,
parts, yeah.
and if they're even available. And if the mechanics are available, and what their
Right.
lead time is, and can you get a hose made for them, and I'll go into that once we, just because I've had a lot of experience with all these
Sure.
guys.
Sure.
The good news is our skid steer comes tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Yep, at 1 o'clock, if anybody wants to be there for the ribbon cutting on that. But very cool, Zach Beach will be up to give a full demonstration, and
Do the demonstration in my alley.
yeah, there you go, yeah, right. In your alley, we need the Traco life seat for your alley, right?
He brought it, John brought it in and just ripped all that ice out.
No, yeah, good.
Then we were, like Stevie Day and I were working behind his building, and then we just went over to his mom's when the whole roof of,
Ice,
Steve came in and, you know, the backhoe just left, we had just left that, and the whole thing.
yeah,
was.
it's a problem. A
Oh,
lot of those alleys
yeah,
are dangerous.
Had a couple of close calls with the museum in the last couple of weeks.
So that's happening, okay, that's loaded up. In talking with the crew, and Louis is included, we have a huge, and we luckily we got that money for those culverts. They're talking about replacing a lot of culverts in Cunningham that are, just because they're older,
Yeah, Earl.
and they need that. And then County Road 2, they said there's gonna be a huge culvert
The one where it's.
Replacement.
Right there,
Well, that's very obvious.
Was that,
I don't even think that's a culvert, that's just a seep.
Oh.
Yeah, but anyway,
Huh.
yeah, we all know about that one, because that one wakes you up, doesn't it? But, I mean, I did not realize how many, so I said, please give me a count to give to you guys on how many culverts there are.
Are they gonna do it with a backhoe? No.
Well, they don't have one,
I
so,
know, but,
yeah,
but the bulldozer way is pretty destructive, so.
pretty antiquated too,
It is.
so, there again, there's a,
Would it be worth renting a?
I would say it'd be definitely worth, renting, I mean, if you've got a month or two of these culverts, you rent one excavator, I let them mine, they did it, they did in what, 2 days, and 1.5 days, they did 7 culverts with an excavator.
Is that right? Yeah.
It's just apples and
Can
oranges.
can we kind of?
You could get one for a month and get them all this done, lease it.
Can we make that recommendation without stepping on toes? Cause I think it's a good idea. I don't wanna step on Louis' toes, cause he's the road and bridge guy, but could you suggest, say, hey, why don't you just rent an excavator or something?
Well, I don't think they're not gonna fight that.
I wouldn't think so.
No.
Okay,
No, they'd like us to buy one. Okay,
Yeah.
that's the ultimate thing, but I mean, for this project right now, I think it just makes more sense to lease one for a month and get it all done. Just make it on your schedule after you're done doing the slide, put it in your schedule and yeah. And while you're doing that, do this parking lot, the bike,
Oh, yeah.
the single track. I mean, excavator, what they can do compared to a dozer is just apples and oranges.
And excavator is specific, the bulldozer isn't, especially.
You have a thumb and if you have the proper one, you also have a front blade like a dozer. And yes, and you can, when you're doing stuff, you can even keep rocks, like when you're building roads or up on full drive roads like Stony or something, you can keep rocks from falling down on people with an excavator,
Huh.
which those are,
It's just pushing everything off.
it goes where it could be a little more dangerous.
Yeah, if you, next time you see Louis, tell him, why don't you just rent an excavator or something,
Well, I thought I'd
Are we okay
bring
with
it
that?
before
Well,
we get pricing or whatever.
Yeah, we need the pricing and.
Yeah.
See,
Okay,
but I think we can make that work.
Yeah.
it's just so much more efficient.
The other bigger thing is Louis going to the doctor a lot. And I talked to him and Willie's been talking to him and his legs aren't good. He seems to be getting better. But I think, guys, I think he's gone in a while. I really do.
Can we talk
and-
about this?
No.
Probably shouldn't talk about.
Okay, all right. I just bring it up as my staff reports.
Right.
Something we need to bring up at a
But
meeting.
it's,
Okay.
uh,
I should have even said his name, I
no,
guess,
no,
but
yeah, we'll
Sorry.
leave it at that.
yep, I'll leave it at that.
If we wanna have a discussion, we can have.
Yeah,
them.
sorry about that.
Executive
No, no
session,
worries.
we can talk about.
Dennis is poking me clear from Durango right now. Sorry, but
It's okay.
Yeah.
No, it's.
that's it. All I got.
I had a lot of CCI meetings with not a lot of worthwhile discussion. They had an emergency meeting last Friday at 9 AM for HB 24-1366, which was the legislature would like to enforce counties putting climate action plans into their master planning efforts. And what a lot of counties were really upset about was that they would like to tie grant rewards and performance to some of those climate action plan aspects. So
Would a climate action plan be like, putting in, 100 bank, some solar or something like that, or?
yeah, and some of the stuff that we're working on for the Snuffles Energy Board stuff that we've been working on is totally right up this alley.
Sure.
So electrification stuff and less reliance on fossil fuels, as far as propane, putting in electric vehicle chargers.
Sure.
There's all kinds of stuff. So I don't think it's necessarily something that it's I don't think it's a very popular bill at the state level either, so.
Do you feel like it's just overreach by the state, kind of, as far as shoving it down people's throats?
So I think, I think that's the position of a lot of counties, is that it's just overreach by the state, to enforce counties to mandate this, and when you have a climate action plan, it favors the more affluent counties who have the money to do these climate action plans,
Yeah.
for sure. So that's the thing, but basically CCI couldn't agree on any position on this. Since you need like 65% majority, none of the votes got that. So basically, I think we're at an amend position for that. And a lot of these things, like take out the language of tying it to grant performance and things like that,
Right.
and tying grants to
Huh.
certain things. And I think there's a lot of good ideas that some other commissioners from the similar mountain regions had for amending the bill. A lot of them did not want to see it strictly opposed, because they did feel that there were some good measures in there for having some potential funding for some of these climate action plan initiatives and for master planning and things as well. So
Again, it's fine to do it, but if you want us to put in solar, then help us fund that solar. You know what I mean? I mean, you can't just say you will put in and do this. It's like, well, how are we gonna do that? We're such a small county, but if you'll fund it,
yeah.
then we'd be more interested, so.
But I did get several phone calls to, make sure that we were gonna be there to cast a vote. So
Oh, good.
we did. And yeah, I don't know that it, makes the largest difference in the world, but essentially I think a lot of the more similar kind of mountain community areas just wanted to see that it wasn't directly opposed. And there were a lot of people from, more rural areas who just wanted to see flat out it opposed and go away. And I think it's hard, when
Especially like
you,
northeastern Colorado, big oil and gas area. and stuff like
Yeah,
that. They
yeah.
They don't want
and
to.
it's just hard when you get all these disparate voices at the table and everybody just,
hard.
it's, you get the most talkative 100 people in the room, together. Those all
Little chaotic,
people.
little chaotic.
It could be a little contentious and a little bit, I don't know a good adjective for it, long-winded, or people definitely at that level are,
Yeah, it seems like you're.
taking on the characteristics of the filibustering days of
Talking too much.
talking too much to prevent anything from getting done.
It seems like you gotta shrink that group down to a smaller group to actually accomplish something. It would seem like.
It's hard too, because technically we could all go to the CCI meetings, but we only get to cast one vote for a county. But so a lot of counties do have multiple people there.
Well, like Weld County.
Weld County,
Yeah.
like even Gunner Center in La Plata, they'll have, two to three of their commissioners there, and they'll
Weld County, I think they have 5, don't they?
But
go
that,
on.
Weld, I think they have 5. Pretty sure.
5 commissioners.
Yeah.
They will.
Yeah. Jefferson is another one of those that they have, 3 or 4 people who are there, and sometimes, when everybody has to get their word in and their 2 cents in, then it just becomes,
This gets drowned out.
it just gets,
Huh.
and there weren't a lot of, there weren't a lot of things that were coming through that were. There were a lot of like updates on legislation happening that had previous positions that were voted on. Nobody was changing any positions, or there were no strong oppositions at the last CCI meeting in general. So it was honestly, and they had the blizzard going on in Denver during it. So hardly anybody was in the room. So everybody was on Zoom.
That makes it even worse.
Which makes it even worse, but I don't know. It was, the CCI agenda was, probably a mirror of our own agenda this month, so not a ton going on.
and I see Eric Bergman is leaving CCI.
Yeah,
He's
they've had a lot of turnovers.
He's kind of the last of the.
The last of the original group there.
But he's going to DOLA.
Oh, well, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of those shifting kind of positions that are, kind of moving around. Yeah, I think. Really interesting, Hillary Cooper, who was a commissioner over in San Miguel, she resigned her position as commissioner to go work for DOLA in the housing office. And the housing office is where she had a lot of controversy in San Miguel County. So, yeah,
That's interesting.
so interesting, but
She
yeah,
was a good,
besides that,
she was a really good commissioner too.
yeah,
Very good commissioner.
there was just a lot of. There were some promises made that shouldn't have been made.
Oh,
That,
yikes.
that were very controversial in San Miguel to certain contractors and.
Yikes.
Ooh.
Trying to think, I think I had one other meeting, but I can't really
Did you have an
remember. what it was.
opioid meeting, or did you have the countywide meeting? Did you do one of those?
The countywide meeting we had before our last meeting, so I
Okay,
give you the
I remember
update
you
from
talking
that
about
one, and we had a sword meeting. But it was the same day as our last meeting. And there was something going on that afternoon that I wasn't able to go to, but I have been staying in touch. Becky's been attending those meetings and Dana Krinker sometimes too, so I try to catch up with them as to what's going on, but now that the treatment facility is kind of off the table, like the larger treatment facility, they're really
Right.
focusing on a couple of these. Well, I guess I did get an update from Becky, actually. I talked to Becky last week about it, and she said that they offered San Juan County that if we wanted to have one of these, that we could apply basically to have one of these smaller group homes, basically, that they're building. They're trying to build 3 to 4 in the region. And I told her I don't think it makes sense to have one of those in our community because of the cost of building here is much higher than it is.
Yeah.
So those dollars can go further if we have more of those houses built. And I think they're planning on building 2 in La Plata, 1 in Archuleta, and 1 in Montezuma right now. Is essentially what it's doing. And they found that these kind of group run homes are a little bit more effective than these
Big giant facility.
big giant treatment facilities. They have a lot of recurring people come through, but if they have.
With the smaller one, there's staff there though, right?
Yeah, and typically it's arranged in a way that usually they try to introduce staff or people who've recovered to be in charge of kind of the house. So
Makes
it's
sense.
empowering people who have, who've battled these addiction issues to help other people who are coming in, and it's just shown to be a lot more effective.
Huh.
And it's a lot more attainable, especially there was just kind of. I think the Denier Center was a good idea, but it was kind of like nobody else was going to step up to the table to help LaPlata County run that, and then
So they would have, you can set it up, but then you're stuck with the operating costs.
Yeah,
It's gotta be.
and so I think-
huge operating costs.
I think after going through and doing it, I think it was like I think the operating cost was going to be like $2 million a year. So
It's like,
it was not. It
it's like
was
getting a
not.
grant for a swimming pool, but then somebody's gotta pay for it.
Somebody's gotta stick chlorine in it,
And
maintain it.
Marsha, I think was willing to stick with that if that's what the group wanted to do, but the other municipal, even city of Durango wasn't willing to.
That's big.
Chip in
expense.
their part of
That's
it,
big
and so
expense.
for La Plata to kind of. Offer that, and then I think also they're pushing the limits of residency at the La Plata Ramada, so they're gonna be remodeling the Denier Center into kind of overflow or part of the La Plata jail as well. So
Oh,
so I think that's kind of where they're at with Sword right now. They had said, if you guys want to apply to have one of these in community, and we said we're not gonna.
Yeah.
Becky wanted to make sure that she wasn't stepping on our toes to say that we weren't hell bent on having one, at a handful or something.
sure,
like that.
that makes sense to me.
I mean, and honestly, it's like, it could be a good place, because you removing removing people from their sources of getting drugs, basically. Could be beneficial for some people, but I just think with how much more it costs to build here and how much harder it is to do things here. It's just
Everything.
Yeah, everything. I just,
Everything.
yeah, I don't think it's, and I think we would be stuck with the operating costs of it as well, so. I think. Some things as well, so I think, yeah, so I think,
Good
I think we're okay
Good
with
call.
where the group is going and what everything's doing, but I honestly, and that group is kind of starting to take their shape and their direction, and it's nice that Becky goes to those meetings, because essentially we have to have somebody from the county and somebody from the health department there, so Becky kind of fills both of those roles. So, yeah, Heather Otter had a meeting with Becky and I, and was like, and we just discussed, whose role it best was, and I don't think Becky necessarily has to be the one to go to these meetings too. It could be anybody from our health department can
Sure.
go. But they like to have that voting member, and essentially Becky's vote counts as 2 now, whereas my vote before only counted as 1. So,
Oh, that's good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like I had something else, but I can't remember.
I don't know, I didn't follow up on it, I wanted to ask you to follow up on it, you sent an email about, Chaffey County Commissioner wanting to talk to us?
That was that HB 1366.
Gotcha, so
Yeah.
you discussed it with.
Yeah, I talked to Keith.
Okay,
and,
thank you for doing that.
yeah, no worries, yeah.
Cause I had it on my list, and then and you were on my list, I better call Austin before I call this guy.
Yeah.
See if you've already talked to him, so.
Yeah, no, and he didn't even call me back because he was testifying,
Oh.
in front of a committee in Denver, so. But Matt Shear from Eagle County had contacted me, and George Marlin messaged me as well, so.
Okay,
So
thank
between all of us, we got it all
thank
covered,
you
but
for taking care
yeah,
of it.
he
thank
didn't even have the time to give me a call back, so.
Okay.
It was
Wasn't that urgent?
Don't feel bad.
I'll cross it off my list.
Well, and then right after he called, CCI had put out a survey that, from Chaffey County, asking if there was any counties that had, revised their lodging tax, distribution,
Oh,
and,
he didn't mention anything about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Which
But-
we did, yeah.
Yeah.
but it was funny, cause, I mean, it was just, have you done it? How did you distribute it?
So you were able to answer it?
Yeah, it was 4 questions, it was real simple, but the 4th question, which I thought was just bizarre, was, did you see a significant decrease in your lodging tax